Greetings and konnichiwa, and welcome to the Onyx Tavern. I'm your host, Rick the Bard. Keep bringing you podcast 129 here at the tavern, presented by Hirotaku.com. Now, call me crazy, and go ahead because everybody else does, but I do have a soft spot in my heart for the Carrierzords and Ultrazords. There's just something really cool about them and what they stand for and just the general concept altogether. I mean, we were first introduced to Titanus in the episode Gung Ho, and that was the first time in Power Rangers that we had a Carrier Zord. And just the idea that you have this Zord that nobody pilots, it is the seventh Zord in your fleet, and you can use him to become the ultimate Zord, the Ultrazord. I mean, you had Megazord, and then your next step up was Ultra. That concept is just awesome. And then in the next season, we up it even more, where we get this giant turtle that can turn into basically a robot himself. Just sits there and shoots Gatling gun hands. But can house the Tiger Zord and the Red Dragon Thunder Zord, not only to shield them, but to repair them as well. I mean, there's just something really awesome about the concept of the Carrier Zord. And of course, then we got later Zords like Pyramidas, where a bunch of the Zords can fit inside or on top and actually carry them away, which is, what the concept was. And then we have the idea of the Ultrazord. The Ultrazord to me is the personification of what the Power Rangers team is. The reason that it's Ultra, that's the last step, is that it's the last step in the development of the Ranger team. Now, follow me with this. You had the five Rangers in Mighty Morphin. They had the Megazord. Then you got Tommy. You got the Mega Dragon Zord, or Then you get the I forget what they actually called it. But with the Dragon Zord and the Megazord combined and all that. But the next level up is the Ultra Zord, the final form where all seven Zords come together. And what's great about that is that it is the team that comes together. Even though I said that I like it when Rangers can defeat villains on their own, it is the team that has to come together to overcome their obstacles as a group, as a unit, as a family to defeat the enemy in the end. And that's what the Ultrazord stands for, is where everybody comes together and uses all their power to defeat the ultimate enemy. Now, when this was introduced in Zoolander, it was literally that, basically, the ultimate power, because the ultimate Daizuzan is God, basically, the seven components of God coming together to defeat Satan, or Lokar, as he's known in America. So, Zoolander first introduced the concept, which first came in Power Rangers, and the truth of the matter is, we were spoiled in America with the concept of the Ultrazord to begin with. Because you look prior to Zoolander, you look from Go Ranger up to Jetman. Yeah, they had a lot of robos that combined together, or it was just the one robot that everybody piloted. But it wasn't the concept of the Ultrazord, because you didn't bring in that Six Ranger. You didn't bring in the final piece of the puzzle with the Carrierzord. I mean, the Carrierzord was something that was introduced in first season of Mighty Morphin, was introduced in the concept of Zoo Ranger. I mean, yeah, you've had some carriers and mobile bases prior in Super Sentai, but it's just not the same. The point I'm trying to make is it started here in Zoo Ranger Mighty Morphin Season 1. And of course, that continued into Season 2 and into Die Ranger. But when we got to Season 3, and really from Season 3 up until now, the Ultrazord is not a given, and it's not really prevalent within Power Rangers history. Yes, we have Gigazords, and we have the Drive Max Ultrazord, which is not really an Ultrazord, and I'll tell you why here in just a little bit. But I've been having a problem recently when I think about the concept of Ultrazords. Because in my mind, an Ultrazord is where you take every Zord you have and combine it into one. The ultimate combination, the Ultra combination. But if you actually look at the history of Power Rangers and, of course, Super Sentai, you don't actually have a lot of those. Now, let me actually kind of break this down for you guys so you get an idea of what I'm trying to go ahead and say. I counted down every season from Mighty Morphin to Dino Charge. Now, I put Samurai as one whole season. Megaforce and Super Megaforce I put as separate because, well, they are basically separate seasons. Just by the Zord count in that. Now, Mighty Morphin, again, as I said, all 7 Zords combined in one. You got your Ultrazord. The second season with the Thunderzords, all the Zords combined into one. You may laugh at how goofy it is that they can change into this giant platform that essentially crushes everything, but that's what they did. That was the Ultrazord. The third season, we did technically get an Ultrazord, but here's where it kind of deviates, and this is where my problem starts. The Ultrazord is not the combination of every Zord that they have. Now, let's also point out that Kakaranger never had the concept of an Ultrazord. The Ultrazord was exclusive to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 3 because they decided to bring Titanus back because they wanted to have an Ultrazord that season. But consider there are two forms. There is the Ninja Ultrazord and the Shogun Ultrazord. I don't think that's the exact names exactly, but that's basically what you had. You basically had the 5 Ninja Zords and the Falcon Zord and Titanus to form one Ultra Zord, and then you have the Shogun Zords, the Falcon Zord, and Titanus to form yet another Ultra Zord. But it's not a true Ultra Zord because not all the Zords combine together. Yes, you got all 6 Rangers in there, and that's the basis of again, what I mean by, the ultimate collection where everybody comes together as a team, but there's something missing when you don't include all your Zords in there, and I find that to be a little odd, basically. Zeo had an Ultra Zord as well, but also this had multiple forms where you could put the Zeo Megazord and the Red Battlezord, or you can go ahead and put the Super Zeo Megazord and the Red Battlezord in Pyramidas. But it's not a true Ultra Zord in my mind because, again, not every Zord is going in together. So when I look at this, when we count everything from Mighty Morphin up to Dino Charge, we've had a total of 5 Ultra Zords that actually include every Zord. 2 of them are actually kind of iffy on my point. Again, the aforementioned 2 Mighty Morphins, the Mighty Morphin and the Thunder, the Ninja Storm Ultra Zord, which does include every Zord, and in the toy of it, does include all the Power Spheres on it as well, which I think is an interesting twist. Now, the RPM and Samurai Ultrazords do include every Zord, but they don't include the Light Zord or the Samurai Lantern, nor does it include the Road Attack Zord, or whatever its Japanese counterpart name is, even though they're counted amongst the Zord count. And, of course, they got different names. It's a Gigazord and whatnot and stuff. But we don't have any other Ultrazords up to Dino Charge. And yes, I know we're going to get Brigigas, or its a counterpart later, but consider Brigigas as well. You have 11 Zords in Kyriuger, but there is no combination that brings all 11 together. And let's look at, Operation Overdrive. They say they have an Ultra Zord, but it's only 10 Zords. The Siren Builder, or the Flashpoint Megazord, that doesn't combine in there, so it's not a true Ultra Zord. And even Tokuger, I assume that if they do adapt over into Power Rangers, they're going to call that final combination the Ultra Zord. But it's not a true Ultra Zord because, and this may be nitpicky on my part, but when you actually break down the toys and you form that Ultrazord, you have leftover pieces. And that's really annoying because it is leftover Zords. You don't have a complete item there. Because again, let's go back to the Mighty Morphin. Every Zord, every piece, everything you had combines neatly into one package. Same thing with the Thunder Ultrazord, same thing with the Ninja Storm Ultrazord, and to an extent the RPM and Samurai Ultrazords, because again, the toys do that. You just have these other mechas, which again are counted as Zords, but they are not actually part of the formation of the Ultrazord. And again, I just find that to be a little bit bothersome. Because, again, when we look at the history of Power Rangers and Super Sentai, we don't actually get Ultrazords as often as we think, in the context that they're all combined together into one. And, part of it, in my mind, does have to go ahead and do with the toys themselves. Because they are a component of it, of which I have to go ahead and admit, because yes, they are selling toys to us, and of course, every time there's an Ultrazord, you have to go out and buy those toys. I get it. That's not what I'm here to really go ahead and talk about. But since coming to Japan, I've been able to go ahead and collect a bulk of all the Zords that are out here. I have, of course, the Ninja Primary Megazord. I have the Rodeo Maru, Dino Maru, UFO Maru, Pano Maru, and Surfer Maru. Now, here's an interesting thing about it. Since I have all these, I cannot combine them into a singular form. And I don't have the Lion Ultrazord or their sixth mecha, but it seems likely, based on what I can tell from these toys, they're not going to have an Ultrazord where every single mecha is actually combined into it. And why is that? We've been trending recently in the toys and the shows where we are getting away from all the Zords combining into a singular Zord. Again, we had the first time this happened was in Kaku Ranger Mighty Morphin for us over here in the States. And again, between the second season of Mighty Morphin, we didn't get a true Ultrazord again until Ninja Storm. So think about that. All the way from the second season of Mighty Morphin up until Ninja Storm, we didn't have a true Ultrazord. And I also would argue we didn't necessarily have a true Carrierzord, because, again, in my mind, a Carrierzord is designed to carry all the Zords. So, for example, we have the Zenith Carrierzord from Lost Galaxy. But he does not actually carry all of the Zords in him, does he? He only carries the Centaurus and Stratoforce Zords, the Galaxy Zords, and of course the Bullzord. Oh, I hate when I blank on names like that. But they do not go into Zenith. Look at the SPD command base. Not all the Zords go into there. Only 5 at a time. So we're not having these combinations show up in recent years, or really throughout the majority of the time that's been on here. Even look at Power Ranger seasons that have yet to be adapted. I mean, again, Ninja doesn't look like it's going to have an Ultrazord. Tokyuger has something of an Ultrazord, but again, you don't use all the components. I mean, when you use the build dio, you only use one component and you have the rest of it just kind of lying around, and what were you supposed to go ahead and do with it? You have an extra component. And of course, Go Buster, you think they have an Ultrazord, but the Lion Zord, it doesn't actually combine with the other 6 Zords. So you guys get what I'm trying to go ahead and say, right? And I don't understand why this is a thing. I don't know what the marketing research is on the toys. I don't understand why it's not done in show. But why don't we have more Carrierzords nowadays? And why don't we have true Ultrazords where every Zord combines into one? And yes, I know every season is different, and you can't always have an Ultrazord for every season. But it is kind of a quagmire, to be quite honest. It's kind of odd that for the bulk, again, of the 21 Power Ranger Zord sets, that's what I'm going to call them, Zord sets, they don't actually form an ultimate combination. I really thought when they did, Gokaiger, that you would be able to do a combination and include every Zord they had. But no, I mean, I would say that the Gokai Zords are probably one of the laziest ones we've seen in recent memory. Because, yeah, you got the Lion, and you got the Pat Striker, and you got the Magi Dragon, but when it comes time to form your Ultimate Zord, you only have the Gokai-O, the Dino Mecha, and then Injin Malcon. That's not an Ultrazord. Why is it your ultimate combination is only made of these 3 main robos? How come you don't include the Lion? Why aren't you including the Pat Striker in there? There used to be this website that I followed, which was in Japanese, and it would show you how to combine all the Zords and all the features in it, in case you didn't have the instructions or whatever and stuff. That site is now closed for some reason. And what they would actually do is they kind of made the same complaint that you can't combine them all at once. So they actually would make these faux combinations where they attempted to combine them all into one. And it was I guess you would call it a hot mess of stuff. It was really, literally, what Raptor would call piles of Zords together, because they just don't naturally do that. So they had to force a way to do that. So what am I getting at here ultimately? I mean, again, I don't understand why we don't have combinations where every Zord combines together, and why the Ultrazord is something that's not more prevalent both Sentai and Power Rangers. I mean, I think one of the satisfying things here's the thing. So I'm attempting to collect all the Ninja Storm Zords. Believe it or not, I don't have any of the Ninja Zord, or Ninja Storm, excuse me. I don't have any of the Ninja Storm Zords. When I was here in Japan, I was able to find the mini Zord with the power spheres, and I've been able to find power spheres. I think I'll get them here in later days, but I don't have the mecha and everything for various reasons. I just never was able to collect them at the time in which they were released, and of course, they're really hard to find now for a decent price. But when I do collect them, I'm going to be extremely satisfied when I'm able to combine them all into its Ultrazord form and put the Ultrazord on display in my house. That's what I'm looking forward to because I think having an Ultrazord in the terms of a toy is a sense of accomplishment. That I've collected them all and I've made this giant combination out of everything I've collected. Everything can be summarized in this one robot. But with the Ninja Zords, first I'm a little disappointed in some of them, but that's a discussion for another time. But the Ninja Zords is once I get the Lion and once I get the final six-piece mecha combination, that's it. I'm gonna have them, yeah, and I can make multiple combinations with the auxiliary Zords. I can combine the Rodeo Maru and the primary Megazord together. I can do all those things, but it's not the same when you can combine the Ultrazord into one and say, I finally did it, and because I collect everything, I can make this combination that is not possible without every single component. So again, it's satisfying to have the Ninja Zords, but not nearly as satisfying as when I end up collecting all the Ninja Storm Hurricane Zords. Do you see the problem there? And then from a storytelling perspective, one of the things I did appreciate about Go Onger is when they did their Christmas episode, they actually had all five mecha fighting in a battle. Basically, it's like you have your five Megazords, and they're fighting 5-on-1 against the monster. So it'd be kind of like what you get on the ground, the spandex suits, but of course, in Megazord mode. And that was a great episode, and that was a great battle sequence. I really enjoyed that, and I enjoyed forming the Ultrazord once I collected everything. Now, of course, once I got the GT Rotor, I think is what it was. I was disappointed I could not put it in an Ultrazord combination. It didn't actually combine with the Ultrazord, so that is extremely disappointing. I mean, yeah, I was satisfied that I got it and everything, but wouldn't it be a lot better if I got it and can combine into the Ultrazord? And the same thing with my Samurai Zords. I have all but the Lantern. That's one I'm still looking for right now. But once I get it, I'm not going to be as satisfied simply because, well, they don't all combine together. That's kind of the thing. There's got to be something satisfactory about it, and I think there needs to be something satisfactory within the narrative of the show because there is a completion, there is a quest that you go on to get Zords, unless you're Gosei. The point being that you've went through all this hard work, you got your reward. It's this Ultrazord. It's your ultimate game changer. When has an Ultrazord ever actually been defeated? I can't think of any time that Ultrazord has actually been defeated. Yeah, I mean Titanus was sunk into the earth and all that, but that's a little bit different. Nobody can actually defeat the Ultrazord. The Ultrazord is the ultimate device. That means they mean business. That is the Omega 13, the final thing that you have there. And I don't know why that's not a thing anymore. I was in preparation for my vlog on the Tokyuger Kiryuger movie. They formed their Ultrazords in the final battle, but they're ultimate, or not the final battle, but the first third of the film. But they are ultimately defeated in their Ultrazord modes. And to me, narratively, you can say, yeah, we gave our best and we couldn't defeat him at our best, so we have to do something a little bit different. So I get where you go with that. But I think it's also symbolic that we've come together as a team, and now here we are to fight the ultimate evil with all our power. And again, let's go back to Go-Onger. One of the big issues there is that the Go-On Wings always felt that they were separate from the Go-Onger. And when they finally accepted and became part of a team, and they were able to get the other Zords together, tame those wild Zords that were the trains, that was a completion that not only did the first three go-ons have to come together, but then you had to get go on green, go on black on your side and have them play by the rules. Then get the go on wings to accept you as being equals and get them to join your team. And then you have to tame three Zords that don't want to be tamed. And after all of that, then you have your Ultrazord, and it's satisfying because that's your ultimate thing. That's what you use to fight the final boss, and again, it's a symbolic of your ultimate achievement as a team. But we're not really getting that in a lot of shows. I mean, yeah, we get the Drive Max Ultrazord and all that, but it's not the end game. There was another Zord that came after that. That's not the Zord that you use. I mean, heck, in Operation Overdrive, the final battle was with the regular Megazord on top of the battle fleet. Even Samurai, even though it's a pretty cool scene, they are losing all their Zords when fighting Xandrid, and they're just down to the regular Samurai Megazord, which again, narratively, if you dig a little bit deeper, it's kind of like, well, the Swordfish Zord was ultimately pointless because it was pointless to the ultimate resolution of the story. Because, yeah, it's about all six of them coming together and Jaden learning to be a leader and whatnot. But I think the Zords are that physical manifestation as opposed to, just one Megazord and a few of the Rangers and so forth. So, what I'm trying to ultimately say here, I think I've said that a couple of times. What I'm ultimately trying to say is the two things that I like about the Carrierzords and the Ultrazords is that they have a symbolic representation and they have a sense of accomplishment for the collector. So in universe and as a toy line, I think they serve interesting purposes, and we don't really have that anymore. We just don't see that much in series. And again, just back to the concept of the Carrierzord, we don't really have Carrierzords that really carry all the Zords. I mean, some people do claim that the Super Trained Megazord is a Carrierzord because it does carry the Zords within it. But I wouldn't necessarily call it a Carrierzord in a traditional sense. It's still a fleet of Zords and Megazord. They just happen to have a little fun surprise inside, if you get what I'm saying. So, what do I want to go ahead and see? I think when we get to the 40th anniversary or beyond, this can be done anytime, because I'm not necessarily saying that the toys and the Zords that they're actually releasing are bad in any way. I'm just disappointed in the fact that they're not giving us everything I've been discussing with you guys. And I think the Carrierzords are probably the ultimate betrayal of that, because as I said in one of my Lost videos, the combination between the Gokaiger and Gokai Silver Zord is just switching out the arms, and that is not a Megazord combination in my book when you're combining Megazords. And heck, also just going back to Gal Ranger and Wild Force, you had, how many Zords we have in the end, like 20 or something, and they combined to ultimate formation? That's a little disappointing, too. But moving forward, moving to the 40th anniversary of Sentai and beyond, I want to see a return to the Carrierzords. I want to see an ultimate combination of Zords. I want to see the Ultras where every single Zord is incorporated. And actually, one more thing I'll say this about ToQger, because what I was really disappointed about when I first got the ToQger Zords was I was surprised by their size. I honestly thought before anything else that they were going to be like the Super Train Zords, where you would have one train that would be about the size of the Super Train Zords, and inside you would have a mecha robot or whatever. I actually thought the Safari Megazord or the Safario would actually be like in the Dumbo movie where the circus train have all the animals on the track. I thought it'd be like a cage, and then the Zord would pop out. The cage could be a Megazord too, but the Zord would be its own robot, and thus the entire train would be a Carrierzord. That's kind of my thought, but that's not what happened. I want to see a true Carrierzord in Sentai and Power Rangers within the next couple of years. I want to see every Zord that can be actually carried in there, and then I want to see it form the Ultrazord, the final combination where every single Zord is incorporated with it. Now, is that nitpicking? Yeah, of course it is. But these are the things that I pay attention to. These are things I think about. I'll give you just a final story here. When I was watching Power Rangers in Space out when it was out, um, that they had the final battle with the Psychos in their monster form before they turned them into ghosts, which I know sounds ridiculous, but whatever. And they had the Astro Megazord, the Delta Megazord, the Mega Voyager, and the Mega Winger. Now, the tension was building up. They were losing, and all four Zords weren't working, and all that. And Alpha says we need more power, or something to that effect. And I honestly thought at the time, because I was not aware of Mega Ranger and the Sentai to that point yet, I actually thought that they were going to call in a final Zord and form an Ultrazord. That in order to defeat a team of evil Rangers, even though it was three at the time, you have to combine all four of your Zords into a single combination, and boom, that's the end of it. The Rangers uniting, and they need a final Zord, but that's not what happened. It was disappointing where they just put all their power into one big blast, but that's kind of what we're getting even nowadays. Um, so it's just a little disappointing and anticlimactic in that example. And of course, I think ultimately with Ultrazords, they're just kind of disappointing nowadays because you don't get that ultimate combination. And maybe it's some sort of psychosis I have, but it is kind of that thing where like I want everything to fit into one. Basically, it's just one of those weird things. And I guess that's a thing about me. Maybe other people share that. And I would honestly like to know what you guys think. I mean, what do you think about the concept of Carrierzords and Ultrazords? And how do you feel about how the series has been handling them throughout the series? I mean, what do you think about Mystic Force not having Ultrazord? About Mega Force not having Ultrazord? About Turbo not having an Ultrazord? I mean, hey, we had one of the greatest actual Carrierzords in Artilleration, but we didn't actually have an Ultrazord out of that. And yes, I would consider that a Carrierzord more than I would say. Well, the Rhinozord is definitely not a Carrierzord. And notice they don't even call it an Ultrazord; they just call it like the Jungle Stampede, which is it's a disappointing name as well. But what do you guys ultimately think? What should be the future course for Carrierzords and Ultrazords? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Do you want to see them return? What's your favorite? And actually, if you guys want to know what my favorite Carrierzord is, it would probably be Tor. Simply because it's a giant turtle that changes into a robot and houses the other Zords. That is pretty freaking awesome. And I don't care if he's just a mindless turtle in the Power Ranger version or Raita from Jetman who turns into him. It's still freaking awesome any way that you look at it. So again, tell me your thoughts, let me your comments, and just let me know. Otherwise, I want to thank you all for listening. Have a good evening, and the tavern is now closed.